Good morning, everybody. Tactard Ted here. It is Monday, the 2nd day of May, 2022. And like everything in the last couple months, I guess I will be chatting with you today about Ukraine. I mean, there are other things to chat about, like Elon Musk making liberals cry, baby snot and tears. I could talk about the Hunter Biden, it's fake laptop that's suddenly not fake after the election is over. But no, I'm going to talk about Joe Biden's war in Ukraine. And the reason I want to talk about Joe Biden's war in Ukraine is the whole bullshit comic book is coming unraveled. It appeared in the New York Times, and it has appeared elsewhere, that the ghost of Kiev is bullshit. And I fucking told you it is nonsense, because in time of war, if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't people who during the course of the war have done miraculous and incredible things, but those stories always seem to come out after the war. Usually the only stories that come out during a war are tragedies or self-sacrifice, or, you know, oh, look at him, he died in his cause. Those stories that come out during wartime are true. It's like the Sullivan brothers in World War II. And if you don't know who the Sullivan brothers are, then shame on you. Look it up. It's your country's history. So they're admitting that it's fake. Well, I hate to tell you, this is another fake on top of fake on top of this fake on top of that fake. The entire Ukrainian narrative, other than the fact that Russian troops are on their territory, everything else about that Ukrainian narrative is fake. And I mean very fake. We'll go to the great stand at Snake Island. Russian warship, go fuck yourself. Okay, they may have said Russian warship, go fuck yourself, but they all surrendered. And there wasn't 13 of them, there were 80 of them, and nobody was killed. They all surrendered. And then a month later, they all get medals for saying Russian warship, go fuck yourself. Now, for a bunch of dead guys, I'm not sure how they showed up and got a medal, but anytime you ask questions, they're like, but Ukraine, but Russia, you know. Come on, guys. I was hoping that we were smarter than this. After 2 years of having the media lie about COVID, after 6 years of having them lie about Donald Trump and Russia collusion, you would think that you folks out there, some of you conservative-minded folks, or claim to be conservative-minded folks, that you would pay a little bit of attention and be able to tell bullshit from fact. And there are so many things that stink about this from the high heavens. The fact that they are admitting that the ghost of Ukraine is fake, is false, is because there is so much bad news coming out for the Ukrainian army right now. The Ukrainian army are taking heavy losses. All that aid we're sending, a lot of it's getting blown up in warehouses. They can't move it on the rails that are not functioning because, you know, for those of you who don't understand that part of Eastern Europe, most of the rails are electric rails. In other words, you have electric locomotives that pull your trains. And the reason the Russians couldn't hit supply trains was the fact that they are putting the carts of military aid in amongst their civilians, which, guess what? That is illegal per the Geneva Convention. You're not allowed to do that. Just like a lot of things the Ukrainian army is doing, but we'll never point that out. No, we will never point that out. We'll give them a pass. We'll give them a pass about executing prisoners. We'll give them a pass about placing their artillery in local neighborhoods. We'll give them a pass about just about anything. We're even giving them a pass about lying about Bucha. Yes, Bucha, not really back in the news. Do you know why it's not back in the news? Just the same reason the one Ukrainian train station is not back in the news, because the evidence is coming out, and it's not good for Ukraine. Tochka-U missiles, Soviet period missiles. They have a serial number. You can trace that serial number and see who had that missile. Those serial number sets usually turn out to be Ukrainian missiles. And Bucha, the interesting thing about Bucha is once they started doing autopsies on those folks, many who were carrying Russian food packets and wearing the white identification that identifies them as being not enemy combatants, at least not to Russian soldiers, it doesn't. Those people, when they started cutting them open and looking at what killed them, they're finding out by the Russian term darts, we would know it as flechettes. Flechettes are common in cluster bomb munitions. And the Ukrainians, not only the Russians, but the Ukrainians have been using those, and they have a history of using those. They've used them in eastern Ukraine for the last 8 years that there's been a war in Ukraine. And this seems to be ignored. You know, I love how the reporting goes. The reporting goes, oh, it's cluster munitions, we think, when this stuff does show up in the Western lands. And Russia has been known to use cluster munitions. Yeah, they've been known to use it. They don't make a lifestyle choice out of it like the Ukrainians do. And we seem to forget to report that Ukraine has them. You know, I don't run from the fact that Russia has them. I don't run from the fact that they use them. But when you particularly point out that this side has them and forget to mention the other side involved has them, then you are being more than just a little biased. You are attempting to cover the truth. You're attempting to hide things. And that seems to be a lot of problem that we're having with the Ukrainian war, is that our beloved government and high tech have went to long lengths to quiet down anything from the other side because they only want you to think what they want you to think. And that's why they're doing it. This is why the whole poor, defenseless Ukrainian narrative. The poor, defenseless Ukraine, the second largest the second largest army in Europe is poor, little, defenseless Ukraine. And they're fighting the largest army in Europe, Russia. So when everybody, poor little defenseless Ukraine has a larger army than several of the NATO states put together. So I'm not buying poor little defenseless Ukraine. You know, poor little defenseless Ukraine who've been killing civilians in eastern Ukraine since 2000. Yeah, they're extremely defenseless, absolutely defenseless. And then we play the whole big, the biggest scam ever, where we are continuing to send United States-made weapons to Ukraine that are all out of date. We just sent a bunch of 113 personnel carriers. For those of you who don't understand the 113 personnel carrier, that was the battle taxi in Vietnam. Fairly simple. I learned to drive. You can drive a bulldozer. You can drive one of those. I learned how to drive one in 1984. The deal is, on a lot of the ranges for targets, like the larger ranges, you will find a couple of 113s setting on these ranges for American soldiers to shoot at. They are not top of the line. They are surplus stuff that we are getting rid of our inventory, taking a loss on, and we're sending those over. Now, whether they're actually going to make it inside of Ukraine still needs to be seen because of the lack of rails, thanks to the Russian military. And then there's the ever-present huge amounts of ordnance we're sending these people. Just incredible amounts of ordnance. And this ordnance is getting either A, blown up in warehouses conspicuously after the warehouses are full. The last train shipment's there, back when the trains were working, and then suddenly, boom, done, gone. It's almost as if we're putting that stuff in Ukraine. Somebody's dropping a dime to the Kremlin and saying, hey, dude, right here, this town, yeah, that warehouse, yeah, right there, that's full of stuff. You might want to hit that. Because either that or the Russians have a excellent intelligence service that we have no clue about, that they may have very first world assets. And I don't put that past them, but I also don't put it past that this is a scam to get rid of all the old weapons in the inventory, so we get to pay Raytheon and everybody else for brand new weapons for our inventory, because who wants those old stale weapons? And yes, I'll be honest with you, I do understand that weapons do have a shelf life, and with the racing technology, there is also a technological life. Much like the 113 personnel carrier, which is the granddaddy. That thing, it's 40 years over. That would be like deploying a Sherman tank in 1984. That's about the equivalent of that. It's a little ridiculous, but we'll go on with it, shall we? So I just want you folks to understand that when I ridicule a lot of this stuff coming out of Ukraine, it's not that I have anything against the Ukrainian people. I have a lot against the Ukrainian government. I have a lot against the administrations who've, number one, caused this mess, the Obama administration, and the administration that is carrying forth with it, the Biden administration. Interesting thought is we had 4 years off. Why did we have 4 years off? Because we had an administration that was not a Democrat administration. And so basically, one of the reasons they were probably in such a big bum rush to get Hillary elected was because the Ukraine situation would have materialized probably in 2017, 2018 instead of now, because Hillary would have forced the matter. And you can't tell me that it just surely by accident that Biden starts causing trouble, starts rattling sabers, starts making that part of the world nervous. And you can't tell me this is all by accident, because it's not. And you folks are smart enough to figure that out. It's just where we are, folks. It's where we are. Ukraine is a lie. Our media reports the lie as fact. And some of you folks who knew you were lied to the last several years suddenly want to trust the media. You suddenly don't doubt the same people that have been lying to you. This is like that woman who cheats on you and you've caught her twice. And not me, because I don't put up on nobody's doormat. But she's cheated on, like my friends, she'll cheat on you twice. Oh, well, honey, if you promise you'll never cheat on me again, I'll believe you 100%. And of course, after you say you believe her 100%, she's out finding every dude that she's never seen naked before that she would like to see naked. She's seeing them naked and up close and personal. And those type of guys, I just look at my head, I shake it ruefully and say, hey, you brought that on yourself. So all you folks that are brought all this on yourself, you believe the ghost of Kiev, you believe Joe Biden, you believe the whole narrative, dude, that's on you. I can't help it. I can't help that you're too trusting for your own good. That's the size of it. All right, guys, y'all take care. I'll talk at you later. Bye.